Hello and welcome to After Dark with Dr. Mike. I'm Dr. Michael Coots, and sitting across from me here is the man behind the operation, Marty Munez. How you doing, Marty?
Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Except all the pollen in the air has got my eyes burning. So I know you're there. I make an outline. But yeah, it's good. It's good.
Right. It's pollen.
What did I say?
Pollen. Pollen.
Okay, I got you. And, of course, our newswoman on the scene is, of course, Gwen with our hot spots. How you doing, Gwen?
I'm doing good, Dr. Mike. How are you?
Pretty good. Now, you got some weird crap tonight, don't you?
Oh, like always.
Absolutely.
I hope never to disappoint.
Straight from the news media to you. I noticed that Dr. Drew was doing exactly the same thing on his show that we were doing on radio 5, 6, 7 years ago, that he just started doing it, and he said that he got the idea from radio. That's kind of interesting. Dr. Drew, you owe me. Okay, what do you got for us, Gwen?
A 33-year-old security guard in Jamaica found by police slumped behind his steering wheel on Sunday morning, according to the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian. Police saw that the guard was bleeding from his groin. Oh, I don't know if I like this. And they discovered he had a .38 caliber firearm in his right front pocket. Cops determined the man had accidentally shot his penis off, like he would do it on purpose. He was taken to a local hospital where he remains. Gawker reports that it's unclear whether medical staff was able to reattach or reassemble. I think reassemble the guard's manhood. No word on that. To add insult to injury, or the worst possible injury imaginable, the guard will likely face charges of illegal possession of a firearm because he allegedly didn't have a valid handgun license.
Whoa. That would kind of suck, wouldn't it?
We can rebuild him.
Yeah.
We have the technology.
A stainless steel pump action penis.
Only if he can stay out of jail.
Then if they rebuild it like that and they make it better and stronger, isn't the Latin term? Oh, faster, yeah. Isn't the Latin term for that biggest dickus? Okay.
Well, I think he would be happy if his dickus just worked us.
Oh, dickus workus.
Dickus workus, yes.
Okay.
Pump it up.
So south, we keep going south here. Newser. A trio of thieves nearly got away with robbing a convenience store in Colombia when their getaway donkey ruined everything, the Telegraph reports. The three had managed to steal tuna, sardines, rum, rice, and oil from a little shop in the town of Juan de Acosto. When the donkey's braying, hee-haws alerted police. Oh, that must have been a scene. The thieves quickly abandoned their stolen goods, already loaded onto the 10-year-old donkey named Exa, and ran off into the night. Police detained the donkey, and after much questioning, for about 12 hours, his owner finally showed up and took him home.
Oh, my God.
I think it was the same as that cat. Remember we talked about the cat who had sat there and snuck in power tools? Maybe that's what those Connecticut escapees or New York
they're
escapees.
From upstate New York.
Yeah, breaking out of Clinton Correctional Facility.
Hey, now that actually did say on the news that one of them was very well endowed, and therefore the female lady that worked there became enthralled with him and helped them. Now that is truly a case of big as dickus in the DOC. I bet he was popular amongst some of the other... Okay, go on, next story.
Holy cow. Okay. This guy, 22 years old, Russell Neff, is accused of breaking into a house in his underwear. He entered the home in Salisbury, Maryland, on last Wednesday, made himself comfortable, the officials said, by stripping down to his underwear and went into the kitchen to cook a chicken pot pie. How much you want to bet there's drugs or alcohol involved in this? You think?
I know there's a chicken pot pie, so might be drugs.
I thought you were going to say there was a chicken involved.
No, it's dead. Can't be much good after that.
Okay. Not some of the stories I've seen.
Hey, clucking and fucking, you know.
Let's see. The homeowner told police he heard the suspect banging on the front door trying to get inside, so he went upstairs and called 911 when Neff got inside. WJLA-TV reported. We found the individual in question quite comfortable in the homeowner's leather recliner, only in his underwear, licking on the remote control and waiting for a chicken pot pie he had found in the freezer to be done out of the microwave. Neff initially resisted arrest, but was eventually taken into custody and charged with burglary, theft of a chicken pot pie, malicious destruction of property, and resisting arrest. I wonder, is he... I can't believe no drugs. He's drunk. He's not drunk. There's no drugs. This guy was sober when he did this?
I don't know. He was licking the remote. Maybe he thought it was a toad.
Toad?
I don't even have a comment on that story.
Maybe mental illness.
I'd say yeah,
You think?
pretty much.
Okay. Snake bites man, man bites snake back. Wow. A Nepali farmer exacted revenge on a cobra by biting the snake back, killing it after it attacked him, the BBC reports. He was working in his rice paddy field in a village about 125 miles south of Kathmandu when he came upon the snake. A snake charmer told me that if a snake bites you, bite it until it's dead. Now, we have not done independent scientific research to know if this is true or not, so none of you out there thinks that, you know, that that's true. Think that they're going to go and bite a snake and it won't, you know, nothing will happen. I'm just reading it. I'm just reading the news. Finally, members later convinced Salmandin to go to a hospital for treatment of his bite, but he's since been released. In 2009, a Kenyan farmer struggled with a 13-foot python for 3 hours. The python dragged the man up into a tree, but the man ended up biting the snake on the tail. He was able to call for help on his cell phone as the snake eased its grip. Jeez. An incident last September, a California man also bit a python, but his actions were not prompted by an attack. The snake was someone's pet. The man later said he had no recollection of the incident, and he admitted to having a drinking problem. He was arrested for animal cruelty, and the python underwent emergency surgery and survived.
These stories tonight are just so far out in left field, I can't even come up with a comment, okay? And this is some seriously bizarre
Weird
stuff.
Well, this one kind of lightened the... No animals in this situation. Vermont man avoids jury duty by wearing a prisoner costume. The guy, James Lowe, from Vermont, showed up for jury selection dressed in a prisoner outfit. You know, the prisoner black and white stripes with a black and white matching beanie.
Nice.
And the deputies pulled him out of the jury selection room to see a judge in an empty adjoining room, and the judge asked him what was he doing. He could be held in contempt for showing up like that. And the guy said, well, there were no clothing restrictions on the jury notice that he got. And the judge dismissed him and told him to get out. And so the guy said he was thankful he didn't have to serve jury duty because of his work schedule and family obligations. So just a thought out there.
That brings up something too, because very quickly, years ago, many years ago, I was chosen for jury selection, and I went, and I was chosen for the jury. Well, there was a backlog or something, and the people were just sitting around. And I sat down next to the man who was going to be put on trial, and we started talking. I had no idea he was going to be put on trial, and he didn't know I was going to be on the jury. And all of a sudden, they come walking up, like 4 cops and a lady, and they asked both of us to get up, go to the judge's chamber, and the judge said, why were you talking? I said, I don't know. I just met the guy. And this was many years ago when I was a police officer. And he says, well, you're a police officer. He knew me, the judge. I said, yes. And he goes, this is the man going on trial. I said, oh. And he goes, you are dismissed. I had no idea who this guy was. He was sitting there. We just struck up a conversation. Because I'm a really fucking friendly kind of guy. You know?
Well, I'm just wondering what the guy was doing there.
He was sitting waiting to be called up to the thing to start, the trial to start, or the hearing, or whatever it was supposed to be. So we just started talking, and that got me out of it, and never called back either.
Never called back?
No.
Huh.
I
They
could live
took
with
you off
that.
the list.
Probably.
They heard your show.
Yeah.
They said, oh.
There you go.
Let's see. We can do trout gives fishermen the finger, horny dolphin called Stinky.
Ooh, Stinky the horny dolphin. That
Okay.
kind of gets me going.
Okay. A dolphin who swims near the Grand Cayman Islands apparently has the hots for humans. Attempts to have sex with scuba divers off the coast of Grand Cayman. The dolphin, who's been nicknamed Stinky the Loner Dolphin, you can go on YouTube and see this. In fact, just type in horny dolphin. You'll get a lot. You get a lot of videos on that. Has one purpose in mind: getting busy with scuba divers. One recent encounter was filmed by Michael Mays, an underwater filmmaker based on Grand Cayman. He posted the clip on YouTube and shows Stinky trying to ride Mays, and in the process, Stinky pushes the human down to the bottom of the ocean floor. A distance, Mays said, could have been 400 feet. Yowza.
Wow.
That is deep.
Yeah.
It all depends on how deep the dolphin went, too, though. Oh, my prostate, it hurts.
Oh, my. Mays says that he loves dolphins, but not in that way.
Oh, bastard.
But posted the shocking video so that others can be aware of the dangers. Jeez. Some divers whose only encounters with dolphins come from movies like A Dolphin Tale or TV shows like Flipper may not be expecting to run into a sexually predatory porpoise. It remains a wild animal, and Stinky is in an awkward situation which can turn him into a playful killer machine. Please be prudent, people, and get out of the water when you see him. Believe me, if he decides, you don't stand the slightest chance.
Well, if you're wearing a wetsuit as a scuba diver, you're okay. But if you're just like snorkeling with shorts on, you're going to have a problem for a few days.
They actually showed these dolphins like jumping out of the water onto people on land.
If it kills you, is it death by sex with dolphin, or is it by drowning? Which one? Or nitrogen narcosis? Which one would it be?
That's a hard question, dude.
Yeah.
Well, instead of the bends, could it be the pork?
Oh, damn. Damn.
I don't know.
I don't know. I know some guys who probably would like to do that.
I don't know. But that's weird. So anyway, that's kind of have all I have tonight. We'll leave Dennis the Menace, the cat burglar, for next time.
Sure?
Oh, I do have a short one.
Okay.
Devon, England, this lady, she woke up to 107 gnomes statues in her garden leading up to her house, and they were put there between June 1st and June 2nd, like late at night to early in the morning. Very upset. And she went on Facebook and said, who the fuck put in over 100 gnomes in my English garden? It looks like an invasion, an army of gnomes. They have the picture, and it is crazy. They
it's
look
like
like
a trail of gnomes.
a trail. I mean, like hordes of gnomes.
Oh my god.
And somebody wrote on there, it says, "Oh, looks like somebody wants to play Game of Gnomes."
Quite a play on words there. Jeez.
Gnomes are expensive too.
I don't
They
know,
are.
man. I've seen like 1,000 gnomes at one time, but that probably, I don't think they were real. I don't know. It's just something that happened. But,
Oh my god!
you know,
And on
what
that
can I
note,
say? Alrighty then. Thanks for the news.
You're
And
welcome.
for people out there, this is real news. It's straight off of the main news stories, the Huffington Post, Newser, and all the rest of them.
Dr. Mike, I have to dig for these. These aren't easy to find.
Well, no, they're not easy to find, but they're real news. They're actually
Yeah, they're
various
real news. I can't
newspapers
make
and stuff
that
like
stuff
that.
up. That's you know how they say truth is stranger than fiction? I was not a believer until I started digging for stuff like this.
Oh yeah.
And the stupidity, and it usually involves like altered states. You know,
Yeah.
animals
Been there.
are interesting. You'd never believe it. And foreign countries, different cultures are interesting. That we would consider weird, but it's not to them. So this is
Hey, the only thing you
Pretty
have
awesome.
to do is watch Andrew Zimmer, okay, on the Food Channel. That'll change your mind about everything.
bizarre foods.
Last night, I saw him And we saw this. We watched this. He actually went to some place.
Is it Italy?
Yes, Italy. It was off of Italy, where the islands are, like where Sicily's at and all this. And they were actually catching fish, lots of different fish. And they were catching some tuna. And in this tuna, they were talking about the 3 best parts of the tuna. One is the roe, where they take the roe, and which are the egg sacs, and they put it in salt, and then they put it outside for 3 days, which kind of made me want to vomit. Then they take the heart, put it in salt for 5 days, set it out for 4 days. And the last thing is the sperm sac testicles, which are pretty damn big. I mean, they're huge. And I was watching like, oh my God, what are you going to use this for? And he takes, the guy was talking about it, and they slice a little corner off, puts it up to his mouth, and sucks the semen out of this and goes, well, straight, or we can cook it. I swear to God, I almost threw up. I mean, I've seen him eat things that no human being or wild predatory animal would eat. And he does this. That was like the icing on the cake.
Tuna testicles.
Ugh. Tuna testy. Would you like secret sauce on that sandwich, sir?
I bet Chicken of the Sea doesn't have that as an option.
Speaking of Chicken of the Sea, never mind. Okay. As most of you out there know anything about the Freedom of Information Act, usually after 50 years, after an incident happens, then you can get the report on that particular incident from the government. Well, a lot of the reports are redacted, meaning that they have certain parts you can read and other parts that are blacked out. Well, over this last week, when I was talking to Marty about the show that we're going to do tonight, basically it was the top military paranormal experiments that existed. And I was able to look at some of the reports, and I found some things that were quite interesting, which are hard to believe, but you have to ask yourself, if these are the parts of these particular instances that the government releases, what are they redacting? What parts are they not telling you? And so that's where I wanted to bring this up, because these 3 things lead into each other. The first one is in 1943, which is called the Philadelphia experiment. It involved the USS Eldridge, and it was based on Einstein's theory of unified field theory, okay? In which things could travel through time. Now, where did it go to, and where did it come from, Marty? Do you remember this one?
Well, I think it depends on which version you...
Because it wasn't in Philadelphia to Norfolk and then Norfolk back.
Right.
Okay. And they said that when it came back that some of the bodies had melded into the metal of the ship.
That's right.
And some of the bodies were translucent. And a lot of the people went insane, had burns on them. And supposedly this was a true happening real thing. And there were witnesses and all kinds of witnesses to it. And unless we want to delve a little more into that part, that led ultimately to the Montauk experiment in New York, which lasted until 1983. Now, this particular thing involved mind control, psychic warfare, or psychological warfare, I guess both really, and then time travel. And according to government documents, the mission ended in 1983 when a creature of unknown origin crossed through a doorway that they had created, again using the unified field theory of Einstein for time travel, and literally destroyed the lab. And soldiers were able to beat this thing back, kill it, whatever. The place that it happened is a total, complete catastrophe, wrecked building to this day, yet it still has armed guards and is considered ultra top secret. Even though it's been destroyed and nothing allegedly is going on there, it is still considered ultra top secret. And when they tell you, oh yeah, a creature came through a doorway and destroyed it, and then they redact everything else, you get, what the hell are they not telling if they're willing to tell that?
Oh yeah.
And that experiment then led to at the same time it was going on, Stargate, which lasted from 1970 to 1993. And the primary thing of that was to enhance the abilities of human beings that were quote-unquote psychic to see other places and other things. And allegedly during this, again, government files, they had an individual who they brought in who they wanted to see the dark side of the moon, because they said there were bases on the dark side of the moon. Now, allegedly there are, and again, I'm saying allegedly, I'm I'm not doing a fucking documentary here. I'm just doing a little journalistic, reporting of what I've read from the government. Allegedly, there's Russian and American and other bases on the other side of the moon, and they wanted this guy to go to one of these places and look inside, and while he was there, he said that these entities saw him and caused him physical harm before he could bring himself back into his mind. Now, these are 3 incidences which anybody can look up on Google: Philadelphia experiment, the Montauk experiment, and Stargate. Now, these were alleged paranormal psychic phenomenon based on Einstein's theories, including the main theory, again, of the unified field theory, which allegedly could open up doorways, dimensions, and time travel. And this brings open an entire discussion that I've had with many people. And do you think that it's real?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because the government did release what they said. They just redacted a lot of other stuff. Okay. So obviously this is based on government documents. So why in the hell don't they tell the people? Is it so horrible, so terrible, so secretive that they can't tell the people about it?
Well, why would they? Why would they? Because think about it this way. The government feels that it is a weapon. And the longer that they have a weapon that can be used, onto an enemy without the enemy knowing about it, it's the element of surprise, the better off that they're going to be. Because knowledge is power, and then there's the element of surprise.
Yeah.
So, if you have some top secret something or another, whether it be a stealth bomber, whether it's a nuclear weapon, whether it's, say, a biological weapon that could, think Herbert's white plague kind of, this is genetically modified biological weapon to only affect a certain group of people. They're not going to tell you about it. The CDC has these things. There are biological labs that the government runs that have these things, but they don't tell you about it. Why?
Well, I'm talking more along the lines of like when I first got my PhD, for a short while I worked with what was called the Janus Project with Area 4 of the United States Air Force. It was run by an admiral and mostly Army officers, so Navy, Air Force, and Army. Now, when you take a look at that, I was able to go to some areas that were allegedly paranormal problems that the government ultimately destroyed. Now, during that time period, they didn't seem to have too many secrets about it, but, that's one thing. I'm talking about, I understand exactly what you're saying about biological warfare, psychological warfare, even psychic warfare using remote sensing, remote viewing. But time travel? I mean, didn't they say actually that the United States Marshal Service say that when the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, who's up in the federal pen now, he didn't get the death penalty. You know that. Like right. So many other weirdos in that particular kiln do get the death penalty. And like, was it McVeigh?
Yeah.
Who was killed. He's one of the quickest executions ever in the federal system. They got him in and executed him pretty quickly. But they've been studying Krasinski because there was a commander of the U.S. Marshal Service said that they believed that based on some of the stuff that they found in his little tiny cabin where he had been living, that he was a time traveler. Now, the guy said this. He said the Department of Defense was looking into it. 2 days later, he had to come back and say he didn't mean it, that it wasn't real, that it didn't happen, that he's not sure why, and he was reassigned. So, I mean, why is that such a big deal? Wouldn't everybody have some interest in time travel or interdimensional travel?
Sure, absolutely.
So why won't they let us?
But if you think about it, time travel is also power.
Well, if you're talking about going ahead in time or even back in time and doing something to alter, but obviously they haven't done shit in that arena because everything's the same.
How do
we
you
don't know that.
Ooh.
How do you know?
Cole, that's true. You got me off on that one.
Because if only a certain few people are allowed to travel through time, Okay, those people are going to be some of the most powerful individuals on the planet because they can alter history to benefit themselves. Think about it. If you are a governmental agency and you discover that there's going to be this event X on this date and time, and it's going to put you into financial ruin, or it's going to put your personal affairs into, I don't know, some sort of catastrophe. If you happen to be one of those people, you can go back into time and alter that and change that to where it never does happen.
Okay, let's go with that. What?
Didn't they have a movie about this changing,
Stargate?
going back? No, it's the Butterfly Effect.
Oh, that was going
Was
way
that-
back. Way. Yeah, that's a good movie. It's an excellent movie.
But that was like going into finding a portal or a seam or something and going and using it, taking people for tourism,
Right.
stay on that track,
Right.
don't get off of it. And somebody did, and it completely altered. I mean, we were decimated, as humans. And I'm a firm believer that, a lot of people say, well, if you go back and you could change something, would you? And a lot of people say, yeah, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. You go back, you change one thing, everything changes.
Right.
It changes everything. And you think you're in a world of hurt now, or you've made poor decisions now, or you're in a desperate situation now, it could be a lot worse. It's 50-50.
Right.
You could be a lot worse, or you could be a lot better, or a lot better.
Well, there's
So.
for every action or decision that you make,
Yes.
there are
Mhm.
unintended consequences.
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Einstein.
Well, and plus there's an endless stream of possibilities and probabilities.
Yes, that's very, very true.
Because changing one thing is like a domino effect all the way down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the butterfly effect principle is, if I'm not mistaken, was based on a Japanese philosophy, which was later again brought up in physics, where a butterfly stroking its wings causes a small wind, which can cause pollen, which can cause this, and through a series of events, it can actually cause a hurricane. Okay, that's the principle behind it. The simple little things, like we could use Occam's razor. Usually, the simplest answer is the truest or the best answer. So you take the simplest thing, which can cause ultimately a disaster of biblical proportions.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say, for instance, that we're using this time travel for positive things. Wouldn't it have been beneficial to the world to go back and kill the ISIS people before they got really up and going, when they were just sitting around going, we should create an Islamic state, man. Do you think we could get some people to jump on? Boom, kill them. Go back in time, waste Hitler. Okay? I know there's a lot of neo-Nazis that would be writing a lot of crap to me, but I don't really care. But you go back and kill Hitler. Okay? Boom, that doesn't happen. Go back and change the principle behind World War I at the
Versailles.
Thank you, Versailles Treaty, so it wouldn't have happened anyway.
Well, let me, if I could interject here.
Okay.
So what we know now, the benefit of looking back at those things, like killing and wiping out ISIS, wiping out Hitler before it even got started, who's to say, because we know, looking back with the benefit of hindsight, that those were the worst that the 20th and 21st century produced. And those are our landmarks as far as landmark figures of evil. I mean, you wipe those out, who's to say that something or someone wouldn't have been worse and would have succeeded?
Absolutely.
You change that one thing, and and we wouldn't know. It could have happened. Somebody could have wiped out somebody who was worse than Hitler. And Hitler, I know people may sit there and think, oh, what is she talking about? That Hitler maybe wasn't so bad. No, he was a awful, awful person.
Oh, yeah.
Just awful. But who's to say that there's someone out there that was exponentially worse and succeeded? But we don't know because it was changed. Maybe that's what's going on. And ISIS, 10 years ago, we thought the Taliban and Al-Qaeda was really horrible and bad.
Well, they actually came out of that with our help.
And now we're helping the Taliban in our fight against ISIS. Because they've completely raised the bar on what's evil.
And yet now documentation has surfaced to where we're finding out that ISIS was created as a tool for special, I don't know, situations to occur. They originally were assisting them to counter Assad.
Right.
Okay.
But you take a look at it, and a lot of people don't like this, but it's been all over the news. Most of the founding members of ISIS was trained in Blackwater and then deployed as defense contractors to the United States and England. A lot of them were trained in the United States Special Forces. A lot of them were trained in the Marine Corps. And they were our people. And then when they got over there, after they got all this training and all these, they said, screw you. We're going to do our own thing, basically. Now, if you take a look in history, and anyone who wants to take time to do this will know exactly what I'm saying, everyone we have ever helped has turned on us. Okay? If you take a look dating back to, oh my God, the Spanish-American War, we backed the, oh my God, I should know this, but I don't. But we backed one of the rebel parties who later turned on us. Then we go all the way up, go past a whole bunch of other crap. In World War II, we passed. Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff. But some of the major things is, we backed the Vietnamese against the Japanese in World War II. Then, as soon as things happen, what the hell is his name? I can't believe this.
Ho Chi Minh?
Thank you. Ho Chi Minh turned on us. And then we can go all the way back to the Middle East. And I think recently the current CIA director said of the 30-something groups that we helped, all of them turned on us.
Oh, yeah.
And one of our biggest projects that we thought was one of our prodigal sons was, of course,
Saddam Hussein.
Well, Saddam Hussein and the one they claimed they killed,
Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden. He was the golden child of the Department of Defense and the CIA.
That's right. Also known as Tim Osman.
That's correct. Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to interject. We talked about the butterfly effect. We talked about what is the the theory of
Unified field theory?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to add my 2 cents.
Okay.
Karma effect. What goes around comes around.
Yeah, we're talking about something a hell of a lot deeper than these applied physics or anything else, though.
Well,
I mean, we're talking about some
sense.
deep sense, you know?
Well, yeah, and this is not, I'm not the deepest person in the room. I'm just saying my wealth of knowledge, don't go there. My sense of knowledge, history and everything, that's your thing, your field, and your field, Marty. But common sense to me is whatever you throw out there can be used against you.
Well, I think that makes perfect sense.
Well, yeah.
And here's the reason why. Okay? Because the whole idea...
Jesus Christ,
they're coming
to
for
get
us.
The whole idea behind karma, okay, is that you don't want to cause harm upon anyone because whatever you put into the universe comes right back out to you.
Yeah.
In other words, it's a mirror. Whatever you put into it, you get back. If you smile into a mirror, you get a smile back. If you frown into a mirror, you get a frown back. You wish harm upon someone, guess what? You're going to have something negative happen to you. And thusly, you are affecting the universe. You are putting in negativity into the universe, whether it be, okay, the perfect example. Let's take history, okay? They want to put someone in power in Iran. Okay? So they put in the Shah. Okay, things are going pretty good. Things are going pretty good because the Shah, well, he's a puppet. Mm-hmm. He's doing some really horrible things to the Iranian people, though. Of course, that comes to bite us in the butt.
Yep. Because
we're messing with things we shouldn't mess with.
True.
Okay, so that backfires. Next thing you know, the Shah's gone. We've got these hostages. There's this Iranian revolution going on. Right? So then what do? We try and manipulate the situation, and we put in another puppet, also known as Saddam Hussein, to try and counterbalance things. In other words, even though it seems like a really good idea at the time, it's really not. So what do? We give Saddam Hussein chemical weapons to, balance out the Iranians, to make sure that that the Persians don't become this huge power, which, they're going to become if left to their own devices, and they're trying to push that back. They always
have been.
Yeah,
since the days of Alexander the Great.
Exactly. They're trying to push that back as long as they possibly can. So all of a sudden he becomes this despot, and he's doing these horrible things, and nobody really cares because he's doing these horrible things to his own people until he wants to go off of the petrodollar. Oh. And now it's like, what? What are you talking about? You're going to make us go broke. No, we can't have that. Now he's run amok. So now they have to put him in his place. But now by putting him into his place, there's this vacuum.
Yep.
He was the only person strong enough to keep all these different factions at bay, and how he was doing that was just by killing them all.
Yeah.
And so now, after the vacuum was there, whenever there's a vacuum, whether it be bacteria or whether it be any sort of, existence, there will be another power that takes over that vacuum. That's just the way that it is. And so now first you had Al-Qaeda, then we went in there to try and stave off Al-Qaeda. Of course, it's very bloody. We don't really want to invest that much time and effort in treasure like American lives. Forget all the money and everything involved. Think of the American lives that we sacrificed over there trying to put some sort of balance back in, but of course it comes to bite us in the butt again.
Yep.
But today they just decided to send more troops back to Iraq.
Right, which will again have unintended consequences. And so Gwen is absolutely right. So the more you put into it, the more you're interfering with things, and that karma comes back to bite you. And so it seems like the only way to kind of balance it out is to let the karma balance itself out. Things will settle.
Like homeostasis.
Yeah.
It will go to balance.
Level again.
Exactly. Yeah. Things will attain balance. Of course, it might not be a balance that is, how would you say, very Western friendly, but there will be a balance achieved. Someone will attain power. They're going to kill each other. They're going to do the things that they do and they do best. Lawrence of Arabia was the perfect example. He tried to let everybody know a long time ago. It's like, you don't understand this area. This has been going on for thousands of years, and you try and put your own spin into it. You can try and put your own stuff into it as much as you like, but it's going to do what it's going to do.
Well, it's a different person, different culture, different history. I think people in general are hardwired a certain way, from their culture. And that people from the outside, or from how many thousands of, miles across the ocean, I heard something totally ridiculous the other day, where they said Donald Rumsfeld, during the time of the Iraq War, said that they were pleased that they were going to be able to bring democracy, we'd be viewed as liberators and bring democracy to Iraq, and then he came out of hiding just like yesterday, saying that. No, that was a totally unrealistic thought for anybody to think that we were going to bring democracy to that part of the world.
Right.
And they didn't want it. That's not what we were there for. But yet they showed video, and one of the commentators who brought it up said, "Didn't they realize they're being videotaped?" Yeah. They're being taped. They're on record. It's a historical record of what you said, even though it was like 10, 15 years ago. This is what you were saying. We got it on tape.
Right.
And you're coming out trying to say something, to spin it to something completely different.
Well,
it's just
because
ludicrous.
There's no accountability anyway.
There's never has been.
Who's going to hold them accountable at all? And this is what gets us into trouble every time we try and manipulate things. Okay? Nobody understands the culture. The Russians didn't understand the Afghan culture.
No.
Okay? How many people have gone into Afghanistan and it is just this pit? I mean, every military commander has gone in to try and conquer this place, and it is just this meat grinder. It's endless because it's just its own way. And if you have no idea of the culture there, everybody's made that mistake in Afghanistan. The other place that they've always made that mistake is in Asia. We didn't go in there understanding the Asian culture into Korea, into Vietnam. We had no idea the brutality, especially in Japan. Look what we had to do. Look at the brutality we had to unleash just to end that war. And this was one small island nation.
They were absolutely brutal, horrific people.
Yes, absolutely. So the only way that we could even bring that war to an end was to unleash something so horrible that even they were like, oh God, what are we going to do? We literally had to blast them into the Stone Age at Hiroshima and Nagasaki for them to surrender, because otherwise it would never have happened. They would have fought to the brutal end. It would have cost millions of more, not just American lives, but Japanese lives as well, because we had no idea of the culture, the Asian culture. And
that's thousands and thousands of years old.
Yes.
That's entrenched and ingrained.
Exactly. And my father brought this to my attention when we would talk. My father was a combat veteran in Vietnam. And he served time with he shared a compound with ROK Marines. And anybody who's been in the service knows that
Republic of Korea.
ROK Marines, they're brutal. They're one of the few armies. In fact, I think now they're the only army in the world that still issue swords, but their swords are not for decoration. Think about that. Just for a moment, their swords are not for decoration. They take them into combat. That's a whole next level of brutality right there. But anyway, shared a compound with ROK Marines. One night, they received mortar fire. So both sides of the compound received mortar fire. Killed a few people. The very next morning, the ROK Marines went out to the nearest Vietnamese village, killed everybody. Killed men, women, children, killed the livestock, and then burned the village to the ground. The next night, only the American side of the compound received mortar fire. Something to think about. That there's a whole nother culture that we just don't comprehend. It's not part of our psyche. It's not, there's that level of brutality that exists there, and it's part of them, and it's part of who they are. Their value systems are completely different than ours.
Well, you got to look at it in so many different ways, though. The Persians, Iraq, Iran, and that area, they go back to the days of Alexander the Great, and before Alexander the Great, Samaria even. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And this principle applies to everything. America says, oh, we're coming up on 300 years in 2076, whatever, okay? So we're like 250 years old, they claim. They don't take into consideration the Spanish and French who were here 500 years ago. They don't take into consideration the Native Americans who were here 7, 8, 9,000 years ago. They just stick to, it's when it became Anglicized. Okay,
Anglicized.
Thank you. Boy, what's wrong with me tonight? Cottonmouth?
Some water.
Yes, I need some water. But so we sat here and we're 250 years old. When I was in Germany, in Bad Tolz in Bavaria, there was a winery that sat on a hill, part of a convent type thing, where monks were. But anyway, it was 1,200 years old, 1,200 years old, and the town of bad tolls. There's a beer manufacturer who was 800 years old, and another one that was 1,300 years old. Okay? America came in there, Coors and Budweiser, and said, "Oh, we're going to do this beer, and we're going to show you this and that, and we're going to..." And they were like, "Who are you to tell us how to make beer? We've been doing it for thousands of years. How long have you even been a nation?"
Right.
Well, Budweiser's been around for 75 or 80 years. Coors has been around 100 years. And they're like, "Get the fuck off our property."
Right.
And they've to this day, there are no contracts between them. And this is something as simple as that, of the arrogance of like, well, we're number one. And we're going to go change all these people to be like us and think like us and eat like us and talk like us and buy techno equipment like us and drive cars. It doesn't happen. It's not ever going to happen. And that kind of brings us back around to all this stuff about psychic warfare, psychological warfare, these portals that they were talking about in the Montauk experiment and the Stargate. I guess they figure, well, if we can't get them one way, we'll jump ahead and get them another way. And no matter what they're doing, it doesn't seem to work right. You know? I mean, some of these things should be made very transparent and say, this is what we have, this is what we discovered. Yes, there are aliens out there. Yes, there are dimensions out there. The greatest minds in the world, you know, Tesla and Oppenheimer and von Braun and Einstein and the one they just made the movie about. I've read his books, Brief History of the Universe. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they made the movie about him. He had the MS.
Steve
Hawkins.
Hawking.
Thank you. Steve Hawkins.
Okay.
And I think it was Tesla and Einstein, at different times, of course, who had made the statement that whatever you put out in your mind and heart and your thoughts into the universe, that they are sincere, cannot help but to come true.
Absolutely.
And to come back.
Absolutely.
And basically we're talking again in a scientific, physics sense of karma. Energy you put, I mean, we are in fact energy. Our bodies are electric. Our brains are electric. Our heart operates on an electrical current. So we are in fact energy, and that energy can be seen and felt and what we call the sixth sense, and the very, 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 very tiny, minute amount of people who really, truly are psychic do have those abilities.
Dr. Mike, if I could ask you, the Montauk experiment,
Yes.
you were talking about, like, it went from one place and then went somewhere else and then
No.
back.
Philadelphia experiment.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, it was the
So what's
USS
that?
Eldridge, and they filled it with all these machines and devices to create this massive amount of energy. That at the time Einstein was alive, and it was based on his unified field theory, where if they could create this massive energy around this ship, and the reason they did it was because it wasn't like a building into the ground, but it was in the water, so they felt that they could make this energy completely encompass this ship, and they had a full crew on board, along with scientists and observers and officers, so forth, and other scientists. And when they turned these things on, apparently the ship began to glow, and everything got very hot, and it disappeared from Philadelphia, the wharf or the
harbor,
right there,
uh-huh,
and reappeared in Norfolk, Virginia, at another harbor, which was the United States Navy.
Yeah.
And then it was there for a few minutes, and then it disappeared and reappeared back in Philadelphia.
Oh,
and when
wow.
that happened, they said that the observers that were waiting on the wharf could see that some of the bodies had melded into the metal. They had become like bits and pieces into the metal, and basically, I guess they had to kill them because it was pretty horrific. Some of them were
cut out. That's
yeah,
right.
they were. Some of the people were translucent, like they were half there and half not there, like spirits.
Oh, wow.
Some of the people were burning and had burn marks all over their body.
Did anybody survive?
Oh yes, quite a few people survived.
What did they?
That's where the story was told originally, in Colorado Springs, Colorado, at the U.S. Naval Reserve building there. A man just told his story all about it. He had notes and pictures and all kinds of stuff, and they wrote the Philadelphia experiment, which then became a massive investigative report where they started looking into it, and they turned out that this thing really happened. And the government actually released reports about it. But it was an experiment that apparently... I was talking to somebody earlier today, talking about kidney transplants, and they were talking about the rejection medicine. If you get too much rejection medication when you get an organ transplant, then the medication starts rejecting the organ. If you don't get enough, then the body starts rejecting the organ. Well, apparently in this case, I think they went a little too much, and it kind of melded things instead of keeping them at a normal flow. And it was a pretty horrific thing to happen. And that led, of course, like I said, around the same time.
And what year was that?
1943, during World War II.
World War II.
They're trying to make invisible ships that could move from one place into the enemy territory so quick that the enemy couldn't respond.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, they had started the Montauk experiment, which went until 1983. And then in 1970, during the Montauk experiments, in 1970 to 1993, so they kind of overlap. One was stopped, the other one was going, and all of them had to do with dimensional travel, interdimension time, and stuff like that. And you'd figure, in my opinion, that if it's gone on since they admit 1943, and I'm sure it was probably before then, because the Nazis were doing stuff with von Braun and the rest of them before they became American citizens, and von Braun actually basically founded NASA for us. I would imagine it was probably going a long time. The stuff Tesla was doing, was, they claim, 500 years ahead of knowledge, ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Tesla did some magnificent, wonderful, outrageous, crazy things that probably would have been... probably would have gotten us into space earlier, probably would open up dimensional travel earlier. He beat Thomas Edison for the You don't even hear about that.
He worked for Thomas Edison.
He worked for Thomas Edison.
And then he went out on his own.
Right, because Edison said his ideas were blah, 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 too much, etc. And then when Tesla went out on his own, yes, he went to Westinghouse. And that's how they went from AC to DC.
Yeah.
Or, I got
DC
it backwards.
to AC.
Thank you.
That's
I knew I had that backwards. They went from the direct current, which Edison had come up with, and everybody wanted, and to do a house was like hundreds of miles of wires.
Mm-hmm.
Where with alternating current, it was just straight wires, maybe a couple hundred yards of wire. Okay? And in Edison's, you needed a gigantic, monstrous, behemoth of a power plant to make the electricity go through this. Where with Teslas, you could have lots of little stations that didn't take up that much. So Tesla was a genius. Some people blame him for the Tunguska blast in Russia that destroyed thousands of square miles of forest by an experiment he was doing allegedly. And then the blast from Colorado Springs, Colorado to Canyon City, Colorado, that followed the entire canyon up to from Canyon City to the Springs, I should say.
He was broadcasting electricity through the air without wires, and he did it over 30 miles. But in the process of transmitting that electricity through the air, he blew up the Colorado Springs power station, and after that, they kicked him out.
Oops.
Because apparently that's kind of expensive.
Well, then he went to New York, and then in New York, he was doing even much more advanced anti-gravity experiments that worked.
That's right.
And then the whatever agency we had at that time that was equivalent to the FBI or the CIA or whoever came down on him like a brick, because they were like, "Oh, you can't do this. If you do this, you can only do it for us." And then just a few years ago, a Canadian physicist redid his experiments, and they worked, and it was on TV, and he showed frogs and rabbits floating through the air in an anti-grav. He was arrested by the Canadian Secret Service and disappeared off the face of the earth for 6 years. And when he came back on the 7th year, people said, "Where were you at?" He said, "The only thing I can say is I had to work for the Canadian government."
Well, I think you just answered your own question from earlier about time travel. Why wouldn't they tell people of its existence? Think about this. This is technology from Tesla, from this was before the 20th century. He started doing this in the late 19th century.
Late 19th.
He invented radio before Marconi invented radio.
Yes.
And that's one thing. And what has all of academia and government and everything done to Tesla, the man who gave all the technology of the 20th century, what have they done to him? They've erased him from history.
Oh, absolutely. Take a look at Oppenheimer, take a look at Einstein, take a look at some of these other great physicists, a couple of very ultra-intelligent Japanese physicists. I can't find anything out about them anymore.
Right.
It's been pretty much erased.
And anybody that's been like that, it's been the same. I'll bring up another name. Goddard.
Yes. Spaceman.
Okay? Because when
NASA.
Von Braun came over through Operation Paperclip, and they're asking Von Braun, saying, hey, where did you guys come up with this stuff? It's genius. And he goes, you're kidding me, right? They're going, no, really. Where did you get this? Well, from Goddard. He's an American.
Yeah.
He's your guy. We just followed his stuff. And they're scratching their heads because that's apparently what we do. Anybody that comes up with that much innovation to where it turns the table, turns the tide of outrageous fortune.
Yes.
All of a sudden, no, they've got to be squashed because we're not in control of it.
Yeah.
Tesla died penniless because of that. He had the keys to the kingdom, but he couldn't be allowed to give it away. Yeah. Westinghouse wouldn't allow him to do any of his other experiments because there was no way to meter free energy. How do you do it? Westinghouse wants to make money.
Well, it was way beyond that too. Like you said, radio and transmission and his ideas on space, travel, and dimension. And it brings up a couple of things. Is that they're hiding these things which are there, even though they release reports about it. Even though you can get it through freedom of information, they tell a little bit, then they redact everything else, so you don't know. Well, when you're talking about on our previous about DMT, you can get there through another means, but one is travel through the mind and the physical, spiritual, ethereal self. Well, the other one you could actually physically travel there in person.
What if?
What if?
What if, Dr. Mike, that the physical and the spiritual are one? Why else would there be such an effort to control everything that gets you to be powerful yourself? For you to realize that, hey, you know what else comes from technology that allows you to travel through time?
What do you mean?
Okay, think about this. You can travel through time.
Yeah.
If you can travel through time, that means you can travel through any point in space and time.
True.
Because time isn't just time. Time is space-time.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, you have the ability to travel anywhere. Anywhere at any time. What does that make you as someone who can do that? That makes you very, very powerful.
Yes. The knowledge you could gain.
So if
things you can do.
Yeah, if you had the ability to in a moment travel anywhere in space and time, to where you don't have to get in your car, you don't have to buy license plates, you don't have to buy gasoline, you don't have to buy a car, you don't have to buy insurance, you don't have to buy all these things that empower all these other people, but you yourself are the potent one. Why do you need governments? Why do you need nation states? Why do you need any of that? And the answer is you don't.
You wouldn't, yeah.
So why would they want to keep this secret? Well, there you go.
Because they don't want a Pangean utopia where everybody can all be one people, basically. Because then there would be no need for money. There would be no need for power and things like that.
Well, it would decimate everything that we know, or that we've been told, how we function, the whole culture, whole society would just...
It would collapse.
It would collapse and it would just go away. And then the people who were powerful would no longer be powerful, and that's very scary for them.
Oh, yeah.
And money is is God to a lot of people.
That's right.
And they, power doesn't necessarily mean money, but money can mean power, or vice versa. Sometimes it's equal, sometimes it's not, depending on what you're talking about. But yeah, I could see it being very much in the people who are pulling the strings now, in their best interest to give sheets of paper that are heavily redacted and look like just sheets of black with just a little bit of white space, a couple of words here and there.
Yeah.
The and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or as Clinton say, could you define the word the?
Is.
But is, that's it. That's it, yes. But as long as there's cultures and the people within those cultures have their mindsets, and that brings up a thing I was thinking about, I wanted to talk to you about the last time we met, was in World War I, the Germans were really big on using gas, mustard gas and every kind of, and they had created this particular gas, and I'd have to do some heavy Googling to find out exactly what it was called, but it actually had used plants and herbs and roots that they had put together, and it was supposed to be a hallucinogenic, and they unleashed it onto the British, and it was a pink colored gas, and when it settled on stuff, it left like a pink powder film. Well, during one of these attacks, the wind shifted, so both the Germans and the British were hit with it. Well, apparently, according to the story and according to Captain Brown, who's the same Captain Brown who killed Baron von Richthofen, the Red Baron, who was a ground commander, said that the Germans later on after the war had said that their people had met British people in this pink mist. And in this pink mist, they had found complete, like a utopian feeling, euphoria. And they put down their weapons, and they went to this giant table, and they ate food together. And they stayed together, and they talked, and they could understand each other. And it was very peaceful, and there was no ill will, there was no aggression. It was absolute peace.
Right.
And there was many Germans and many British together. Well, as the gas began to wear off, and these guys began to wander out of the haze, totally whacked out of their gourds, the Germans told their commanders what had happened. And they said, this is very serious. We cannot allow this gas to be used again, because this could end all of the, the Kaiser's desires and Germans' rule for the world and all this. When the British soldiers told their commanders, they laughed and said, wow, you really did get whacked out, didn't you? They didn't believe any of it.
Well, of course not.
But the Germans were so serious, they took the gas and completely removed it. So again, those cultural norms, what would happen if they both had said, my God, we don't need to fight.
Right.
We can actually find some peace, some understanding, some unity.
Well, isn't that really what heaven is? And where, we talk about DMT and we talk about the other worlds and we talk about
dimensions and
time, space, and what we truly are. And we know that this is just we're spiritual beings engaged in a physical existence. Okay?
Well said.
We're spiritual beings having a physical experience, but we are not physical beings. And think about this for one moment. The place that we go. And we talk about heaven and where things are peaceful and things are this utopia that everybody truly seeks, right? Okay, imagine a place where everybody experiences empathy. I know your thoughts. You know my thoughts. I am unable to lie to you. It's impossible for me to lie to you.
Oh, there goes politics.
Well, yeah.
Yay.
Okay. I can't lie to you. You can't lie to me. We feel everything that each other feels. You can't go hungry because if I feel your hunger, I will feed you because I don't want you to go hungry. I can't strike you. I can't punch you in the mouth because if I punch you in the mouth, I feel that. So all of a sudden, if there was this place to where there is 100% empathy, where we're all empaths, there is no deceit. There's no lies. There's none of that thing. There's no separation. There's no separation of self. We are all truly one. We are all in it together. We are experiencing it all together.
That would be awesome. That brings up the book Thea Alexander. Have you ever read her work?
No.
The Thetas. Very, very, very interesting reading. And then, have you ever read or seen the movie Zardoz?
Yes.
Okay, that would be, well, not the whole thing. Cause
I'm still scarred mentally from that movie. I can't unsee it.
Yes, because part of it was a utopian world like you just described, and the other half was savage as hell. I mean, they were murderous, vicious people. But the good part is like what you just described. You know, you go to get together, go to second level thought. And I have to ask you, because I've read the book and seen the movie, what scarred you about it? I have to know.
The costumes, the Sean Connery costume. I'm just kind of, oh, good Lord, I can't. I'm like, what am I doing watching this? No.
Hey,
that's very uncomfortable.
We all three watched John Dies at the End.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, you see? I'm one of those people. No, that door's locked. There's no. I can't get there.
Okay.
I don't want to go back. That was craziness.
See, but I love those kind of movies like Zardoz and John Dies at the End and a lot of these things because Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Okay, it just makes you think, man.
Oh yeah.
Probably the Killer Clown from Outer Space probably really doesn't fit into any part of this conversation or show, but still, a lot of people don't like it. I checked it out. It was good.
I liked it.
Good.
I love the cotton candy and the crazy straw that they use.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it was awesome. It was well worth the price of admission.
Well, before we go, do you think there will ever come a time when we as citizens, as people, as individuals be allowed to travel interdimensionally or time if these government documents that I'm waving right here in my hand, if what they put out and what they're telling people, if it is true and the government this isn't like telling a bunch of crap, do you think there'll ever come a time we can do it?
I think on a last journey.
Well, I'm talking about before that.
No, that we don't come back and spread the word to the others.
So they'd let us go on a one-way ride.
One way.
That would suck.
I see it in a different way because this show is on right now. This show is awakening everyone who listens to it. Anybody that takes the time to listen to this hour and 10-minute show tonight, has grown, has learned a little something. And that growth and that wisdom that they gain from this show empowers them. And it's that empowerment that can take them there and to experience those things. It's when they wake up and they discover that they are the ones that are powerful. It's not the government that makes them powerful. It's not a piece of paper that supposedly gives them rights that makes them powerful. They are all powerful. It's given to them the moment that they are brought into existence.
Well, I think when this show when you're finished editing, I think let me know, and I'm going to really push this particular show because I like more people to listen, more people to get involved. I think this show is probably one of the more paranormal-oriented, self-awareness-oriented shows we've done. I'd like to put it out there to more and more people and say, come to YouTube and check it out. Tell your friends. Like Gwen said, tell your friends. Tell people you don't even like. Maybe you like them after that, What is it that Pink Floyd put in their song? Invite all my enemies in. Open the door to my enemies and invite them in and ask if we could wipe the slate clean. And if they tell me to please go fuck myself, then you know that you can never win. And you need to have that opportunity to say, look, can't we just all get along? I've heard that before. Can't we all just get along? For real. Can't we all just be friends? I like to live in a world where you don't have to worry about a Boston Marathon bomber or ISIS turning off the dam so they can walk across a river and destroy a town. You know, I mean, it would be peaceful if there was unity, peace, and love in the world. You know?
Right.
And maybe if we had that, we could go on some of those field trips into the inner dimensions without having to take DMT or smoke the crap my friend gets in a pipe, and I'm not sure what it is, but it takes me there. You know, it depends, man. There's so many things that could be done. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
I think it was a good show. I think it had a lot of information. And like usual, we started at point A and we wound up on point J or point T or point X or something through the entire alphabet. And I think that's what makes it worthwhile. Because it's a conversation. It's not a fixed dialogue that's been pre-printed for us.
Free flow.
Free flow. Like
So-
the nasty little dolphin.
Free flow?
Yeah. He's free-flowing.
He's stinky.
His name
What
may
do
be
I-
stinky, but he's free-flowing.
You can't. Well, I wonder if he. Wonder where he got the name Stinky.
I think that falls under the category of I don't know.
And you
I don't
want
want to know.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe dolphin jizz smells funny.
Underwater?
Ah.
I don't know, I'm just saying. All right, well, everybody, thanks for listening to After Dark with Dr. Mike, and thanks to Marty Menez, the man behind the machine, my partner in all this, and, of course, our news lady who is only known as Gwen. She refuses to give a last name or even her other information.
Yes.
The mystery woman with the mystery news. So thanks again. Tell your friends. Check it out. YouTube. You know.
Subscribe.
Absolutely.
Hit
like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
And spread the word.
Yeah. So thanks again, guys. It was a good show, and thanks for you for listening. Good night.
Good
Bye.
night.
That was a good show.